more artful at the point of action, and so the application rules are undertaken, or at least written down at your own risk. So here we're just looking at commercial cooking. We have a few of these. I believe we have 28 own.
That includes like the Palmer Commons.
That's right. That was as of a couple of years ago.
And then Boston.
Yeah. So, of course, when I see this, the first thing I look for the mechanical code. I would also look at the International Fire Code. Of course, ICC has their version, NFPA has theirs. So there's a lot of players in this space, and the designer. Well, if we look at the title of this bad boy, let's see, we have ventilation. Okay, so it's a first public review, and so it's not as though we don't have a chance to come look at a second draft of it and have a review look at it. To be fair to the committee, they did put something together. This looks like an original document. It means it's the first time somebody focused their effort on trying to get something that codifies everything. So it's at this point it's a guide. Is that it? It's a standard. There's a standard. Okay, so somewhere between a guide and a code, we have a standard. And so I'm seeing all sorts of tabular material. It all looks prescriptive. It looks like somebody's fairly studied it. It looks like they have all these.
There's an awful lot of parts here.
That's right.
I don't even know what a salamander is. I mean, there's something called a salamander.
But while we're on our podcast here, tell me what as you scan this, what are your thoughts as we through this? What has been your combat experience on this?
My experience has been to verify, in the field, doing testing and so forth, trying to achieve and verify the necessary code required velocities and in what planes over the equipment and so on. And it's that can be quite a project in an actual installed kitchen, because they put all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you have a set of ovens next to it. Sometimes you have, it's out in an open area. I mean,
they're all the same pressure in a commercial cooking operation. Are you compartmentalized, or is the grill next to the?
No, they vary. I mean, it depends on who's laid out the stuff. Like when we were looking at the various dorms, and in fact, some of them, like the newer dorms over here. So I would not be surprised to find that the dining center over at Hill has a lot better, more effective ventilation. Just because you move a lot of air out doesn't mean that you're doing an effective job at actually constraining the grease and the other stuff that and the smoke and whatever else you want to do there. And the older buildings, makeups, the air handling units and things, it's a hodgepodge. And out there in the actual commercial real world, again, some things that pop up. I know I've seen some of that, and people put what they can into the facilities they've got, and they try probably to comply to the code without going out of business. And it's a very and from an air balance, a test and balance standpoint, even sometimes to understand whether you're actually achieving results that are complied with the code. And it's been like 20 years since I've been doing this.
Well, codes want to be stay safety oriented.
Yeah.
And so where. Well, let me ask this question. Are there problems with compartmentalizing eating areas with where the standards are? So in other words, I'm imagining that there's a lot of point of action type of fire suppression equipment that has a certain requirement for them to be effective.
Yeah.
Is that going to, so suppose the griller or the fryer at McDonald's there's an accident, and I assume all the ANSEL and all the other spot dry type of extinguishing agents are placed. Somehow the pressure set up so that doesn't follow out into the eating area.
It should be set up that way, and in fact, that's why there's supposed to be doors and fire, between.
Well, you don't see doors there. You see open air. I think there's an intention that they don't want you to compartmentalize too much. They want you to see a little bit of food making process to make sure that it,
It's true.
you can say, well,
Yeah,
there's
you know what,
truly a
right.
mystery meat coming on my burger. They want to show that real human beings are touching it, and I would think
I don't
that's
know.
it.
It's, my experience with this stuff, the codes and the rules, my experience is pretty much limited to having to try to test and certify the operation of some of the stuff in the housing, especially here at the university, that, whether it met the code, and or other requirements that like OSHA might come on and say, you need to check this out.
Oh, that's right. We got another group in there, so we got a half
so
dozen.
you might, and to try and verify that, say, the makeup air volumes are correct, and and that, exactly what is sometimes all that you can do is just try to achieve a certain velocity in, say, a plane below a capture hood, and you just measure that velocity but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually effectively achieving, the result you want. Just because you might be moving thousands of CFM, but depending on how things are actually being done, that the smoke and stuff, I've seen it where the smoke will not necessarily be captured. It's almost like, I guess, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. This is really hard. I don't know the answer to that question really. It's what we should be doing.
Well, for example, so this podcast will be this podcast will be given to the committee for their use. They'll have a chance to listen to us. What I call our unrefined motions.
I guess I have to read all this to see where they're going. Some negative pressure, 0.02. That's a lot.
They're going to hear our unrefined moments of unrefined or reflection upon this document. Of course, written documents to do today, but it's going to go through at least one more drafts. I have some pro forma comments that I generally am able to put in that's common to all documents that want to rise to the level of the standard. So apart from that, the committee, if they so choose, have access to our thoughts here right now, and that may make them think a little bit harder. I don't know who's on the committee. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to give this draft for you to look at.
Okay.
And when we come and see the second draft of this, hopefully the committee's disposed to wanting to deal with comments that come through the first draft. It's fair to say that the committee will like all of our best ideas in the first draft markup, but in the interest of time, it is the end of the year, and I've had plenty of time. Frankly, they have done a good job. 30 days to look at this, and it's not fair to you to say we have to have everything by midnight tonight. But that's frankly what the deadline is. So
wow.
We'll, but again, remember this stuff whistles by us by the hour, and this one kind of was in the middle to lower tier for us. And sometimes I'll do that when I see a first draft. I'm a little bit less concerned about it than I am a third and ready to ship draft. So that's just our rationing time. So anyway, welcome to that. Thank you very much, Craig. I'll come by a little bit later, have to take a look at it, and appreciate your time.